Hey there. So today I'm going to show to you what my steps were when designing a portfolio, what every step includes, how you're going to get there, and afterwards what the follow-up is to continuously improve it. Let's get right into it. So let's get started. As said, I used Figma for the design. I really like Figma. I really recommend everyone to check it out. For me also was an opportunity here to get to know getting better in Figma. I think that's very valuable, especially if you want to become a UX UI designer. Fantastic, and it's for free, which is even better. So let's start. First off, as I said, my point of departure was that I already had an portfolio. So first step for me was going in my portfolio and critiquing my own portfolio just to make sure I don't redo the same mistakes that I did before, or like as a little warm-up exercise. And yeah, as you see, I had quite some points here. Like there was space for improvement. And from there on, I went into user research. So in this case, user research, it's quite a challenge because our client are HR recruiters and maybe product manager, like professionals in the company who gonna evaluate you. So it's hard to get our data about them. Like it's hard to get qualitative data. You cannot call them and do interviews with them as you would do usually. So what you have to do is you have to make assumptions at the beginning, and later on you're gonna, through quantitative data, through collecting data through your web page, you have to start making getting a better idea. So here I started with a value proposition canvas. I do this a lot because I really like it. I think it's an awesome tool. As said, I had no qualitative data. I couldn't interview people, so this is purely based on assumptions. So this could be I could be completely wrong. I mean, I'm even sometimes I hope no HR recruiter is gonna look at this and spill out his coffee because he starts laughing too hard. But yeah, basically it's about here you have gains, what is the positive things they do when what are the pain points when doing this application stuff, what do they get done when they check your documents, and then here's your product, trying to match then your stuff with what they want to have or what they are relieving their pains and trying to match them up. Prioritizing what you want to match up more usually, because you cannot solve every pain point. Just make sure you take certain pain points and solve them very well. But yeah, as said, this is purely based on assumptions. User story here. I'm honest, I took this Webflow design, Webflow portfolio design course. I thought it really awesome, worth to check it out. And in there, they did also show the user story, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna include it too. It says as a product manager, HR recruiter, I want to learn about the process, experience, quality of work, so that I can hire Chris, me, as digital product UX designer. So what does this tell us? It tells us our client is product manager, HR recruiter. What they want to get out of our stuff is they want to learn about the process, experience, quality of work. So what we present them should reflect that in the best way possible. And finally, to show if we were successful is if they hire us, or at least invite us for an interview. So then some quantitative data. So my previous portfolio, I hooked it up with Hotjar, so you can get great information from Hotjar. I said I'm gonna make a separate video of this. Here, for example, you can see where people click, and somehow someone clicked a lot on this highlight. So you could then start thinking of, okay, if people click on it, maybe I'm gonna do something funny with it, or why do people click on it? Is their experience broken now? And then here, what I got from Google Analytics. The only thing I really could take away from my old portfolio at this point in time was that people are mainly accessing your portfolio through a desktop device. That means they use a laptop or a computer to go on your portfolio. So make sure your portfolio really shines on desktop devices. Mobile devices is secondary since only 7% do that. And then make sure it looks awesome on Chrome, it works perfectly on Chrome, and then make sure it works on Firefox. Don't make it the other way around. Don't rather sacrifice Firefox than Chrome, because sometimes with web programming you have to make sure that it works on all browsers like equally good. And there are sometimes also you have to do sacrifices. Okay, and then referencing. Referencing, I think, a very, very important topic that is neglected by so many people. Like, no one really talks about it, but it's so important. And I repeat it again, it's so important. Basically, yeah, get inspiration, go on. I really like the YouTube channel Flux. I mean, he's sponsored by Webflow, so it came in handy for me that, or maybe this is the reason why I wanted to use Webflow in the end. Then from there, I checked out other portfolios. So why is it so important? It's you don't reinvent the wheel. I mean, other people already put a lot of thought into their portfolios. Like they already did all the heavy lifting. You don't have to reinvent the way a portfolio works. So go in there and get some ideas and inspiration. So yeah, I went on this page. Like they have like these tiles. It's called the parallax effect. It's like when you have something in the background, something in the foreground. And when you scroll, it moves and gives you this sense of depth. And if it's done really well, it's like super awesome. I loved it. Little spoiler alert, I put it on my website and had to remove it afterwards again because people thought there were formatting problems with my webpage. But yeah, I tried. Here, this link, I think you can later go in my project and copy these links. That's why I put them there. I like this thingy here. I thought it was kind of cool, so I kept it. So as you see, just like everything you like, just put it in there. Maybe you're gonna need it later again. And then from this guy, I also kind of like this, like to have the image here and then have the text going inside the image. So I also saved it. And finally, since redoing my portfolio was also because I was curious about learning how these tools work, like Webflow. So luckily they also released a Webflow portfolio course class, so I really recommend you to use it. And you can see that my portfolio like resembles theirs a lot because it was my point of departure, and then I just tweaked it, or I thought it could be tweaked or make it a bit more my own. But definitely check it out. Like their tutorials are really awesome. So after you've done all the research and the referencing, like kind of nailed your requirements in a sense, I started doing a sitemap. Sitemap saying like a very global view, like faraway view on how my webpage, my portfolio should look like. So do I have a spot here? Oh, I had vegan bolognese, tomato sauce bolognese for lunch. I think no one in the world. Write me an email with the name of the one person in the world who's able to eat pasta with tomato sauce or bolognese without having a spot on his t-shirt. I don't know anyone. We should study this man. Anyway. Sitemap, so global view of your portfolio, what you want to have from it. So I want to have portfolio. I knew I want a home section. In the home section, a hero page, previous companies, projects, contact form, footer, an about page with my journey, my conception of design, contact form, and a separate contact page. And here again, referencing comes in very handy. Go on other portfolios, see how they structured it. Don't reinvent the wheel. They didn't reinvent the wheel. They did already all the heavy lifting. So like, be smart about your work. And then from there on, I did a lo-fi prototype draft. Here too, because in get it first done here in a simple way. make sure you nail it before creating it in creating a web page or whatever you want to create. So you save a lot of time and you're a lot more flexible in here than later on when you really have to deal with stuff that it works. So these are like very common terms you're gonna find for web pages, like having a hero section, I want social proof, experience, call to action. And I did this now for the about page. Here, about page, product details, looks like this. Really cool. So the advantage of Figma, of lo-fi prototyping is then like, if I say, I want to have this here, I want to have it here. Okay, no, maybe not. Like, it's really easy to move stuff around and change things. So you can and you're not distracted by other stuff. Imagine you start doing like crazy icons and then you figure out you don't need the icons. You wasted all this time creating icons. Like, no, one step in front of the other, which means like first get your layout done, then put in the text. It's another thing awesome for me to put the text already in the lo-fi prototype, because the text is like the blood pumping through your body, like it breathes life into your web page. And me, I'm not a good copywriter. I'm not a fan of writing. But here it helps me on really focusing on getting the text, nailing the text. Instead of when I'm later in Webflow creating the web page, I easily get distracted and work then on other stuff and not caring about the text so much. So I really recommend this here too. And anyway, if you would work for an external client, like first Figma would be perfect, because you just send them over, they can check it out what you do, and you can comment on here, and you have to verify. This is communication, like communication is key, and you have to verify that they like what you build for them before you actually build it, because otherwise you get frustrated, they get frustrated, because you waste so much time for something they don't want in the end. And then, since in this case I'm the customer myself, there was no need in making it too detailed and creating a hi-fi prototype inside Figma. In companies they do this usually, but in my case I'm flexible enough to create it in Webflow, doing the Webflow class, and then doing like changes ASAP in there. So from there on, my final result looked a bit like this. And actually, if you go now on my webpage, you're gonna see that it looks quite not super different, but it looks different than what you see here, based on feedback I gathered and what I thought improved over time. I hope it got better. So yeah, here as you can see, social proof here. I had this tiles floating parallax effect where people thought they have my web page is not displayed properly on their device, so I changed it. Call to action here, the contact form and the footer. Really nice. And then from here, a web page is never finished. It's like a painting. You always go back and there's always something to improve. And this especially for web pages, this is the case. So what you do, you hook it up with Google Analytics, you send it over to friends, family, whatever. If you're not hired somewhere, just ask them like, was there something, like give me some advices. They're gonna maybe happy to tell you like, there were some navigation problems in your website, maybe check this. So yeah, to wrap it up, I'm gonna show you here like, if you hook it up with Google Analytics, data you get, for example, here, data cleaning is essential. Like, make sure you only include data points important for you, which means in our case, you want to import HR recruiters. You don't want to include yourself. If you check your web page 1 trillion times because you're so much in love with your web page, you don't want to have this in this data, because this is gonna confound everything. It's gonna destroy it. You will not get. You're not gonna be able to make smart conclusions of your data if there's a pollution in there from yourself, for example. So do data cleaning. I'm gonna do a separate video about this. Check it out. So as you can see here are all the pages I have. Google Analytics tells you like what are the most visited pages. So here, this is the landing page. So obviously this is where most people go. And then I can see here the projects. Here, CERN, case study, go for it. These are the top 3 projects people are looking at when they check out my page. So obviously I didn't nail my webpage in the first try. And then when I had to get back on it, I checked this and I could now make a list, prioritize stuff. So I knew now, okay, the CERN project details, go back in there and make sure that it's absolutely perfect, because that's where most of the people probably first go. Make sure it looks good. And same for the others. And then here you can see what's the average time people spend on this page. So first I saw 50 seconds, that's not so much. I think they don't even read the text, they just scroll through it and then they're gone. But I was wrong. So what I did, at some point I was like, okay, maybe I should test that. Here we are again, assumption, and then testing your assumption. My assumption was they don't read my stuff, so I sat down, I put a timer, I read once my whole page and I checked how much time it takes me. And surprise, surprise, it was more or less 50 seconds. So I knew okay, go back in the text, make sure that the text is gorgeous. At least from what I'm capable of to write. So here you can get a lot out of it. And then the other thing, as you have seen before, I showed you for my old portfolio here, is the same. I can see that 83% of people visiting my webpage do it using a desktop device like a laptop or a computer, and only 16% on mobile. So make sure your portfolio looks awesome on desktop devices, and then on mobile too, but first on desktop. Okay, that's as much as I have to say. I hope you learned 1 or 2 things from it, and if you like it, hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more in the future, and especially put a comment if you have any comment. Probably you see I don't really have, you cannot even call this channel I have, so I'm gonna come back on every comment and try to help you, and maybe it's gonna save you some time in the future. Cheers.